I used to love Oprah, like most of us who grew up when we did. And only now did I realize I've been getting spoon-fed propaganda from this woman for years. I always took her little setup packages as gospel.
Did you see the Oprah interview? Drop the rails.
What's on your heart? Freedom to just be.
Tim Dillon is the best. Tim Dillon's like...
She talks in like gypsy curses. When they ask her something.
When was the last time Oprah actually spent time hanging out with a working class person in America? She's on her Montecito estate with one of the most beautiful mansions known to...
But she also brought us Dr. Oz and The Secret. We have to remember what this lady has done.
She has to be held accountable.
Women would get off if The Rock was the president and Oprah was VP.
She's potentially next in line. That's not a bad thing.
A lot of people would want her to be president. Oprah counters that with the first female celebrity president. Bah! That's a big win.
Would The Rock be VP in that situation?
Tough to get The Rock to seat,
yeah,
son.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Hold on to your vision boards, folks, because Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly just torched Oprah's empire on air. And it was brutal. We're talking hypocrisy, curated self-help nonsense, and a billion-dollar brand built on vibes and velvet quotes. They didn't hold back, though, and neither are we. If you've ever side-eyed a $39 candle or wondered why Oprah never answers the tough questions, this is the breakdown you cannot miss. Grab your tea because the Queen of Talk just got talked about.
The scene in like the 1980s, and she was fresh out of Chicago. She was in Chicago for the launch of her national talk show. She was something electric and interesting and authentic, you know. I miss Fat Oprah. She was just genuine. Now this thin Ozempic Oprah has lost, along with the pounds, her heart, her sense of authenticity. And what we're getting these days is this cleansed, elite, billionaire version who wants to scrub the record of
You
fat.
remember the time Oprah had that lady on, his face bit off by the chimp? Stay there. And she showed her face on TV?
Oh, yeah.
Miraculously, she survived just the unimaginable. Her name is Charla Nash. Charla almost always covers her face with the hat and scarf. She wears it, she says, because she doesn't want to scare people.
The lady was wearing a veil over her face, like, let's see your face. Come on. She pulls the veil away.
Like a Nope?
What are you doing?
Before I was a reporter, I never even thought to question whether Oprah might be intentionally misleading me. Then last night, the dawn came, and I was like, oh my God, she is not a reporter. She's a propagandist. She's trying to shove messaging down my throat of whatever she believes, not what's real. So you remember she did that like kind of factual interview after the quote documentary of Michael Jackson?
Yes.
That was so dishonest.
Because I see you as a fella that has goals, and I would think positive thinking plays into your life. So.
Well, what does that even mean, really? Like, do I think positive? I think in a positive way. I try to be positive. I try, but when you're trying to accomplish something, whether you're trying to, get better at something, like say if you're playing a game, like what if, let's say golf, like say you take up golf and you want to be a really good golfer. Like you start thinking about golf, like how do I get better at golf? You have to learn. You have to pay attention to.
All right, y'all. If the name Oprah still makes you think of cozy wisdom, warm hugs, and free cars flying across the audience, then yeah, you might want to sit down. Because Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly just tore that image to shreds. And it wasn't pretty. Joe came in swinging with his usual no BS takes, and Megyn, she was slicing through Oprah's glittery media image like she had a grudge and a machete. And Oprah, she looked like someone had yanked her book club mid-chapter.
Did you guys hear Oprah Winfrey? She turned into some sort of nutcase. She's a nutcase. I realize you made $1 billion in the drama business. Your tears, which you could no longer produce anymore. We all saw you run out of the tears. You got $1 billion, undoubtedly from blue cards her staff gave her. That's how the Oprah Winfrey Show was shot. Oprah didn't have to think of her own questions. I know. I've spoken with her executive producers over the years, all of them. And there was no ad-libbing. It was all impromptu or on a blue card for Oprah.
So what did they actually say to flip Oprah's picture-perfect empire upside down? Let's just say it was messier than one of her old couch cry sessions. And this time, there were no commercial breaks to soften the blow. Now here's where it gets wild. Megyn Kelly admitted that, like most of us, she used to love Oprah back in the day. But then she said it hit her. She'd been blindly believing everything Oprah served up. According to Megyn, she always treated Oprah's little TV segments like gospel. But after becoming a reporter, she started connecting the dots and said, wait a minute, Oprah is not a journalist, she's a propagandist. Yikes.
I used to love Oprah, like most of us who grew up when we did. And only now did I realize I've been getting spoon-fed propaganda from this woman for years. And I was like, oh my God, she is not a reporter. She's a propagandist. She's trying to shove messaging down my throat of whatever she believes, not what's real.
And then Joe chimed in with the ultimate vibe check. Picture it, a mountain of kale smoothies, crystals, and chakra coaches, and somehow zero common sense. That's the kingdom Oprah built, and Joe and Megyn were done pretending it made sense.
Watch
Joe didn't
this moment where, of course, predictably, naturally, Oprah tries to make it about herself, and you can see Whoopi kind of recoil. Watch.
When we talk about Black excellence, we're talking about Quincy.
My life changed forever and for the better after meeting him. He actually discovered me for The Color Purple, which was my first film.
Yeah. Me too.
You can see Whoopi like kind of pull away from her while she starts talking about herself and The Color Purple. Oprah does. And then Whoopi gives her a couple of claps like, oh, yeah, go Oprah. This one isn't about you. And then says Me Too, which is kind of like the Me Too thing is very interesting because she was the bigger star. She had the bigger role.
Joe didn't stop there. He straight up roasted Oprah and what he saw as double standards during their Democratic National Convention speeches. He pointed out how Oprah talked about income inequality while sitting on a billion-dollar throne. And in his speech, Joe said it was praising people who don't take more than they need while living in 4 mansions. Joe wasn't throwing punches, he was swinging truth like a folding chair at a WWE match. And Megyn followed up with a flamethrower labeled accountability. The whole thing was like a TED Talk that got fed through a paper shredder. They didn't hold back. Megyn went straight for what she called the glorious cult of Oprah. You know, that role Oprah plays as America's emotional compass. Only now, they were calling out that her compass might just be spinning in circles. They joked her advice is basically yelling, "Believe in yourself," while staring straight into a ditch, and somehow people still cheer.
Bro, you remember the time Oprah had that lady on, his face bit off by the chimp?
Stay there.
And she showed her face on TV?
Oh, yeah.
Miraculously, she survived just the unimaginable. Her name is Charla Nash. Charla almost always covers her face with the hat and scarf. She wears it, she says, because she doesn't want to scare people.
The lady was wearing a veil over her face, like, let's see your face, come on. She pulls the veil away.
Like a Nope?
What are you doing?
Would you mind lifting the veil? Oh, no. So we can see. You could take the hat off. Oh, the hat comes off. Yep. Okay.
Cheer.
All right.
Joe even brought up how wild it was when people started swearing by The Secret. He said he had actual friends who believed they could just slap some photos on a vision board and bam, they'd become astronauts or celebrities. Joe was like, that's not how any of this works. Then he dropped the line that had everyone talking. He asked how no one's brought up that Oprah's empire is basically a high-functioning con game, just with glitter and a good camera crew.
About Oprah, unfortunately, where this woman had terminal cancer.
Hey.
And she had stage 3 breast cancer and just decided that through The Secret, she was going to imagine herself a healthy person.
Yeah.
And then, she eventually wound up dying from it because she didn't get treatment.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, she stopped.
And Megyn, she went in, no hesitation. She said Oprah was totally off the rails, joking that she'd drifted into full wine mom territory. Then she cracked a joke about owning a gun and said if her brakes failed, they'd get it. Yep, she went there. And then comedian Tim Dillon jumped in too, clowning Oprah's spiritual talk and saying it sounded like straight-up gypsy curses.
Did you see the Oprah interview? It's off the rails.
What's on your heart?
Freedom to just be.
Tim Dillon is the best. Tim Dillon's like...
She talks in like gypsy curses. When they ask her something...
So get this, Joe and Megyn were just dragging Oprah's wellness empire. They started asking a whole other question. When was the last time Oprah even talked to a regular working class person?
When was the last time Oprah actually spent time hanging out with a working class person in America? She's on her Montecito estate with one of the most beautiful mansions known
Then
to
things really got wild when they brought up Dr. Oz. Yes, that Dr. Oz. The one Oprah picked, polished, and pushed into the spotlight. Rogan called him her personal Frankenstein project, joking he walked out of the wellness lab one day and ran for office like a walking, talking Whole Foods aisle.
She also brought us Dr. Oz and The Secret. We have to remember what this lady has done.
She has to be held accountable.
I forgive her, but I mean, The Secret is a particularly egregious offense.
What, you don't believe?
You don't believe? Oh, believe?
I want to be rich.
And Rogan's reaction? Hilarious. He raised that one signature eyebrow so high, he joked it could start orbiting the Earth. He practically shouted, "This is your guy," while calling out Oz for recommending raspberry ketones like they were magical Wakandian potions. Dead serious.
Confusing when that was taking hold with people. When I had friends that were telling me that The Secret is real and that they imagined they were going to fulfill these childhood dreams that they had about whatever, being a astronaut, whatever it would be. There's a couple people that I knew that were trying to tell me that The Secret was going to be the thing and that they had a vision board and they had photographs. They put pictures up of the things that they wanted, like them in front of large crowds.
But wait, then came Dr. Phil. Megyn described him as this deep-fried motivational menace, the kind of guy whose only real credential was Oprah's stamp of approval. She even pointed out that his whole claim to fame is yelling at teens on TV. And Oprah? She just sat there, nodding like that was somehow healing. They didn't scream. They didn't need to. Rogan and Megyn just started unpacking Oprah's empire layer by layer, like peeling back 1,000 Instagram quotes to reveal what they saw. A nonstop machine of branding, vague inspiration, and overpriced essential oils. Then they came for the book club. Yep, Oprah's book club. The one filled with feel-good reads, including The Secret. That book told people the universe was like Amazon Prime. Just manifest what you want, and boom, it'll show up. Rogan was stunned. He brought up how this book actually told cancer patients to just vibe higher. And Oprah gave it a massive platform, national spotlight level. He remembered The Secret came out around 2006, and he couldn't believe Oprah was 50 years old and already a billionaire when she promoted it like legitimate science. According to him, to sell that to people is crazy, especially since the book sold over 20 million copies.
There's a couple people that I knew that were trying to tell me that The Secret was going to be the thing and that they had a vision board and they had photographs. They put pictures up of the things that they wanted, like them in front of large crowds and Oh, boy.
Them in front of large crowds.
This is so not how it works.
Yeah. But there is a kernel of it that works.
Yep.
Positive thinking, you wanting something, you envisioning it. But that's a little component in just how you live your life.
And Megyn, she didn't just criticize, she leveled up the whole conversation. She said Oprah basically sold people a dream called Think Your Way Out of Poverty, when what they really needed was actual policy, not good vibes. Yet somehow Oprah managed to rebrand herself as the country's moral compass, all while kickstarting a wave of teary daytime shows, emotional baiting, and feel-good therapy disguised as journalism. Then Rogan dropped a reminder that had everyone blinking. He said, "Did we all forget she used to host those weird I Married My Horse type of segments in the 90s? Like that was real daytime TV history. But the biggest roast? Oprah turned guru. Because nothing screams, just like us, more than a billionaire picking Senate candidates from her vineyard because they feel right." Rogan completely lost it. He said it was like she chose a senator the same way she picks throw pillows. Megyn didn't waste time. She crossed her arms, gave that signature deadpan stare, and went all in. She pointed out that Oprah's richer than some countries, literally, and yet she still tries to talk like she gets what everyday people go through. According to Megyn, the only kind of inflation Oprah knows is the price tag on her fancy chai candles. And yep, those candles, totally real.
Oprah is no longer in the business of staying up on the news. She's reading undoubtedly from blue cards her staff gave her. That's how the Oprah Winfrey Show was shot. Oprah didn't have to think of her own questions. It was all in prompter or on a blue card for Oprah. She doesn't know she's not making big news with this revelation. She says she'll sign the same so-called border bill that they rejected last time because it would let 5,000 illegals over the border a day.
Yeah, this is the best she can do, by the way. When they give her the talking points in advance, when they say, we're going to have a girl stand up, that poor girl who talks about her childhood sex. And what is Oprah, I don't know if you've heard this story, but when I was in high school, my best friend was being stepfather. And I said, we've heard this story so many times. And it makes me crazy because she is using this poor woman's as a valorization of herself.
So true.
It's so disgusting.
Now, just when it felt like the roast was winding down, Rogan leaned in like he was about to drop the final boss reveal. He said Oprah acts like she's above media bias, untouchable. But in his words, her whole brand is curated emotional propaganda wrapped in cashmere and candlelight. Then he brought up the Michael Jackson documentary fallout. Rogan was fuming that Oprah had the accusers right in front of her and didn't even press them on the serious stuff. Lawsuits, credibility issues, any of it. He said a real journalist would have at least asked, but she didn't. Not a single question.
You remember she did that, kind of factual interview after the, quote, documentary of Michael Jackson?
Yes.
That was so dishonest.
Yes.
She did not raise any of those accusers' serious compromising facts when she had them right there. Maybe they're telling the truth, maybe they're not. But as a journalist, you have to at least ask. You've got multiple lawsuits against his estate, sir. Might that be an incentive to lie? Didn't ask. You've got these accusations against him. You had a book that you were supposed to produce about Michael Jackson in the context of litigation where you were required to turn this stuff over, and you lied saying that you didn't have it. And you only got found out because Random House and these other publishers admitted you shopped it to them and turned over the metadata to Michael Jackson.
So, great point about the Michael Jackson thing, because Oprah is a survivor of childhood sex, right? You would think anyone, especially a journalist coming from that background, would view him with a bit more of a jaundiced eye rather than be in the business of image rehabilitation for this guy.
No, but she wasn't. My point is coming from the other way. She had the accusers there, and the accusers may or may not have had this experience with Michael Jackson.
Oh, you're talking about the HBO doc? Yes.
But she failed to bring up prior inconsistencies in their stories that really did compromise their stories. I don't know what happened.
I understand what you're saying.
So
okay,
I'm just saying, as a journalist, which she purports to be,
right,
it was a complete fail.
Megyn, meanwhile, looked like her neck might snap from nodding. She didn't just say Oprah was biased. She said Oprah is the bias. All soft lighting, clapping crowds, and teary monologues. Basically, she called Oprah's empire a billion-dollar theater production built on emotional manipulation. And don't even get them started on the spiritual squad. Eckhart Tolle, Rogan said, he sounded like the guy who forgot what he was saying mid-sentence. And Deepak Chopra, throwing out horoscope-level nonsense and calling it wisdom. Rogan couldn't believe people bought into it. He said Oprah built an entire franchise on feel-good fog and sold it as enlightenment. Megyn wasn't holding back either. She said Oprah had spent decades selling inner peace like it was something you could buy in a gift box, while skipping over the real issues, like actual suffering or policy change. And the craziest part? Oprah's everywhere, not just TV. She's in podcasts, documentaries, charities. Megyn called it mystic capitalism gone corporate. They even joked that every time someone skips rent to buy a scented candle and write in a gratitude journal, Oprah adds another wing to her mansion.
Did you guys hear Oprah Winfrey? She turned into some sort of nutcase. She's a nutcase. I realize you made $1 billion in the drama business. Your tears, which you could no longer produce anymore. We all saw you run out of the tears. You got $1 billion.
Rogan just blinked in disbelief. He said Oprah made a fortune telling people to trust their gut, even when their gut was totally wrong. At some point, he added, it's not intuition, it's just gas and denial. They circled back to that Jackson documentary again. Megyn made it clear. One of the accusers had major credibility problems, and Oprah still didn't press them on anything serious. Then came the Meghan Markle interview, which they both described as just another feel-good propaganda parade. And finally, the weight loss twist.
What's real? Megyn? So you remember she did that kind of factual interview after the, quote, documentary of Michael
Megyn went in hard. She dragged how Oprah spent years preaching body positivity, only to suddenly start pushing weight loss inducers. She even threw out, did she find self-love or just a better sponsor? That's when Rogan lost it. He laughed so hard he sounded like a motorcycle that wouldn't start. His summary? So we were perfect just the way we are until the check cleared. Brutal. The audience totally losing it. And honestly, who could blame them? For all the wisdom and warm vibes Oprah's brand is built on, her empire is full of contradictions so big they would probably have their own zip code. She's known as the queen of being real, but every part of her image has been micromanaged since the 80s. She says she stands for truth, but let's not forget, she gave airtime to people claiming they cured cancer with green juice. She's seen as America's moral compass, yet somehow always manages to land on whatever side of an issue is trending and profitable. Now Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly, they didn't drop brand new information. What they said was what a lot of people were already thinking. Loud, clear, and without any sugarcoating. So let's be real. Someone needed to say it. Because for years, Oprah's cruised above criticism like some kind of self-help fairy on a first-class flight. Question her, you're labeled a hater. Dig into her empire, suddenly you're just not in alignment. But Joe and Megyn didn't come to align. They came to rip the glitter off the surface. And they left a smoking trail of motivational nonsense behind. Rogan circled back to the Michael Jackson documentary. He called Oprah out for having the accusers on her show despite serious red flags in their story. He pointed out that if Oprah really considers herself a journalist, then that was a complete failure because she didn't push back once, didn't ask, didn't question, just nodded along.
To Michael Jackson's estate, this guy, my point is simply, this one accuser was very compromised and she had him right after the documentary. It aired on HBO right after. Didn't ask.
Megyn backed him up and added another example. The Meghan Markle interview. Oprah just nodded through that one, too. No follow-ups, no verification. She simply took every single claim, even the racism accusations, as truth.
Which she purports to be.
Right.
It was a complete fail.
Right.
And then she committed the same failure with Meghan Markle.
Yes.
Where she didn't press any of her claims of in the royal family. Mm-hmm. And now we have the ultimate culmination of her journalistic.
And then Megyn dropped the hammer. She said Oprah had officially crossed into a whole new category. At some point, she said, you're not a media mogul. You're just a billionaire lifestyle blogger with cult status. Joe didn't miss a beat. He compared Oprah's version of wellness to McDonald's salads. Looks healthy until you read the label. No screaming, no dramatics, just two people standing in what's left of Oprah's once untouchable brand asking, how did we let this go on for so long? Because when you strip away the candles, the soft piano music, and the perfectly timed tears, what's really left? A media empire made of vibes, and those vibes are starting to rot. Rogan and Kelly weren't just poking holes, they peeled back the whole wallpaper of the operation. And what they found wasn't just cracks. It was a full-blown self-help pyramid scheme, accessorized with luxury candles. Oprah didn't just create a brand, she created a belief system, where she's both the preacher and the product. And the contradictions? Chef's kiss. This is someone who preaches authenticity but only shows up in lighting soft enough to need a permit. She sells vulnerability like it's a 2-for-1 deal, while staying hidden behind a wall of publicists tougher than a government agency. Joe looked stunned. He even said Oprah has more image protection than Fort Knox. And when she suggested that using weight loss inducers was cheating, Joe called it out. How is it cheating if it helps people get healthy? He said the truth was obvious. Oprah has always been open about her weight struggles. And then suddenly she drops pounds right when this miracle substance hits the market? Come on, everyone can do the math. And she's still out here repping Weight Watchers, still talking up that point system like that's what did the trick. But Megyn, she didn't even blink. She knows a polished PR move when she sees one. And let's be real, Oprah's spin game is next level. One minute she's walking barefoot through a meadow preaching about healing and inner peace. The next she's selling high-ticket retreats that basically boil down to group therapy with cucumber water. Same messages, just with a luxury price tag. It's like spirituality sponsored by corporate vibes. Then there's the showmanship, the crying on cue, the intense eye contact, the dramatic pauses so long they test your Wi-Fi connection. Joe Rogan, ever the blunt one, asked what a lot of people were thinking. Was this real personal growth or just marketing with Oscar potential? Because every special, every emotional confession, they weren't just heartfelt moments. They were part of a carefully built shrine to herself, all wrapped up as public service. At this point, Oprah doesn't just have fans, she has full-on believers. People thank her for the stage tears, the velvet lighting, the vibes. They literally cry just being near her, like enlightenment now comes with a promo code. Megyn went in harder. She says there's one thing even worse than fake humility, and that's fake activism. One day Oprah's crying about injustice, and the next she's posing on the cover of a fashion magazine in a $12,000 coat, talking about oppression from the comfort of her private vineyard. The irony? Her face didn't even twitch. It was surgical grade shade. Kelly even looked back when Oprah first hit the scene in the 1980s. She called her electric, authentic, real. I miss fat Oprah. she said. Not as a dig, but because back then Oprah felt grounded, relatable, human. Now, with all the money, the polish, the glow-ups, Megyn thinks she's lost something big. Her heart, her connection to reality.
The scene in like the 1980s, and she was fresh out of Chicago. She was in Chicago for the launch of her national talk show. She was something electric and interesting and authentic, you know. I miss Fat Oprah. She was just genuine. Now this thin Ozempic Oprah has lost, along with the pounds, her heart, her sense of authenticity. And what we're getting these days is this cleansed elite billionaire version who wants to scrub the record.
Then came the big pivot, from daytime queen to political player. Why just inspire souls when you can shape elections too? Rogan was floored. The woman who once launched Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil into the spotlight now wants to tell America how to vote. That's like lighting a match and then being shocked the house caught fire. And here's the kicker. Her best trick? Silence. When something blows up like a scandal with one of her experts or bad health advice gone viral, Oprah disappears. No press release, no apologies, just a quiet exit to her favorite retreat. But Joe and Megyn didn't let that slide. They called it exactly what it is, a strategy. Disappear, wait for the fire to die down, and then glide back in like nothing ever happened. The truth is, Oprah has never been held to the same standard as the rest of the media world. Why? Because she wrapped her entire empire in soft affirmations and high-end empathy. And for decades, no one wanted to be the one to say it until now. Rogan and Kelly showed up, lit the incense of accountability, and didn't stop until the whole illusion went up in smoke. So here we are. After tearing back layer after layer of Oprah's carefully curated empire, like peeling an overpriced onion sponsored by her brand, what's left is one raw, unavoidable truth. It was never about awakening your power. It was always about protecting hers. So is Oprah the wellness whisperer we've all worshipped? Or just the ultimate lifestyle illusionist? Rogan and Kelly made their case for sure, and it's raising eyebrows everywhere. So what do you think? Truth tellers or just professional haters? Hit the comments and spill your thoughts. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss a single drop of this spicy celebrity tea. We'll catch you in the next one. This Empire Roast is far from over.